I've never framed a house from start to finish ever in my life. As a matter of fact, the closest thing I've come to framing something this size was a barn that I built when I was in my early 20s, and it was done so poorly that I think it was later torn down when I sold the house. Two nights ago I couldn't sleep because I knew that the lumber was sitting up here. So I slept until about 4:45 in the morning, and I came up here, and the funny thing is the sun didn't come up until 7:30. I'm just kind of back in that mode again where I'm worrying a little bit about what I'm going to be able to get done before winter sets in. But as fast as things are going, I think I'm going to be fine. I don't want to jinx myself, but it's going up really well. I enjoy framing. It's something that satisfies my brain as far as the math is concerned, but again, I keep it pretty simple with just 16 on center. I think he's too cold. He can barely move. I think he's just a big rat snake. Big blow snake, but he is snuck up on me, scared the heck out of me. Yeah, he's freezing. I came around the corner and this guy was just trying to find some sun. I think it's a blow snake or a rat snake. He tries to act like a rattlesnake, but he's non-venomous and he eats the little voles that we have all over, so I'm going to let him go. one of the things that I did in preparation for framing was I mounted my welder generator in this old compressor trailer. That generator's pretty heavy, and I needed to find a little trailer that was rated for that, and I knew this little trailer was. I only gave $100 for this trailer. Punched a hole through the roof, ran the exhaust up out of it so it would run properly. And I also have enough room in this trailer where I can throw all my construction tools when I'm done. This Hobart generator, welder generator, is an 11 kW generator that I can run all of my tools off of as I'm framing, as I'm running the chipping hammer, things like that. This was probably one of the better tools that I have on the job, because I'm not using my little tiny Honda generator and fighting that. I ran this thing for 2.5 days before it finally ran out of gas. There's a setting on this generator where when it's not under load, it goes to a low idle, and it barely uses any fuel. And so, like I said, I was waiting all day yesterday for it to run out of gas, and it never ran out of gas. It finally ran out of gas about 1.5 hours ago, and I had to fill it back up. But I can also use this generator to power the house as I get the solar panels figured out. So anyway, this is something that has been a multi-use tool, to say the least. I knew that the dimensions of this building would be a fairly easy job to frame up. I also knew that the dimensions would minimize the waste. By doing it 20 feet by 40 feet, I knew that a 4-foot sheet of OSB, I'd need 10 of them on one side. By doing an 8-foot high, actually 92 5/8 inch high ceiling would basically take me another full sheet of OSB right to the second story rafters. And so I put enough thought in this where I didn't want to waste any more than I had to, especially as expensive as lumber has gotten. And so far it's worked out really well. I have very little OSB waste, and I have almost no 2x6 waste. This is the extent of my 2x6 waste right here. I'll use these somewhere, either with blocking or somewhere else, but I have almost no waste. I also knew that if I took time to lay it out properly, it should go together pretty fast. And that's what it's basically taken me about 3.5 days to do this. I'm not a framer. I don't pretend to be a framer. I know enough about framing to get in trouble, but so far it's been quite easy. Also, the 92 5/8 2x6 is probably the least expensive 2x6 made. And so these 2x6s were $4 a piece, whereas as soon as I jumped up to a true 8-footer, the price difference was like 40%, 50% more. I had to put a few red heads in because my lag bolts, in situations like that, I couldn't get to them, so I just cut them off. So I went back and put red heads in. But really, surprisingly, most of my lag bolts hit. Another thing that I made an effort to do was wherever I had a seam on the bottom plate, I did it where it was right under a stud. So where I had seams, and I have a few of them, it was right under a stud. On the top plate I didn't care as much because I have a double top plate. But on the bottom plate I did care. I didn't want the seam to fall into an open bay. So far it's gone up surprisingly well. I was able to use the backhoe to stand the walls up. It didn't throw the walls out at all. That Milwaukee nail gun was the best investment I ever made. I spent a lot of time laying out, making sure that when I went to stand it up, everything was going to hit, and everything hit perfectly. So I would say that the layout is probably the most important part of the deal. Also, I'm going to, both on the inside and the outside, come back and put a bead of polyurethane caulking, not a cheap latex caulking, but an actual polyurethane caulking. So code calls that the OSB does not touch the concrete, so I left the gap big enough for a nice bead of caulking. I don't want to have any wind blowing through, and the foam that a lot of guys use, the foam seal stuff, dries up and blows away after a few winters and summers. So like I said, so far it's gone really well. I put the headers up as close to the bottom of the second story as I could, because I wanted the windows up as high as I could get them. I'm going to finish up this big huge header. This is going to be a pretty big header to go across the garage. I'm going to finish that up tonight, and then next week it will be nothing but floor joists, and that should go together real fast as well. I hope to be at the tail end of next week working on the second story, and that's going to take me a little bit longer to figure out my angles and things like that, but so far so good. It's going really well. It went up really fast, surprisingly fast.